Talk about the sales process. The sales process is an important piece on one of the lectures that we're going to be discussing here. This is, in essence, what you do on a regular basis. The sales process is 7 steps that we'll be going through. One is the greeting, kind of the introduction. When you make that initial phone call, or if they're calling you, how can we gain that interest immediately? How can we gain credibility? We'll talk about that. The next step is needs assessment. How do we actually find out specifically what they're looking for? I mean, buyers want and they need certain things. It's our job to find out what that is. In essence, the more that they tell us what they want and what they need, they're basically telling us how to sell to them. So our job is to ask the right questions, not have all the answers. All the people I've talked to, of all the salespeople out there, I found out one common denominator. Great salespeople do not have great answers. They don't. Great salespeople have great questions. And these types of questions we need to ask to ensure we get the answers we're looking for from the customer. Because the more they tell us, the better off we'll be. The next one is going to be sales presentation. We've got to understand exactly in terms of the sales presentation, what do we do? Gestures, nonverbals, what should be included in the presentation, strengths, weaknesses. We'll talk a lot about it, how we actually go about that process, what it looks like, and what we should do to ensure we're doing the right thing, saying the right thing, and building confidence along the way. The next step is validation. We've basically got to validate their educational experience. Some people use Justify, and I understand that, but we've got to make sure we're actually validating the information they've already received from us. During the sales presentation, we're educating them on our products and services, and possibly ourselves. Once that happens, we've got to validate what they already know. We'll talk more about that. The next step is negotiate. Now, negotiating happens throughout the entire sales process, but typically, usually, most people feel like it happens at the end. And that's usually when conversations come into play. We're always negotiating. But in essence of the sales process itself, typically happens towards the tail end. Another step that we go through is closing. We'll talk about closing tools and techniques. How to close effectively, not aggressively, but effectively. And the last step in the sales process is post-sales activities. A lot of us feel like once the sale is closed and once we have the order in our hand, our job is done. Not necessarily the case. We want to make sure that we actually use some of these tools and techniques to ensure that we actually keep these customers. Long term, not short term. And the post-sales activities can be a key component in making that happen. Sometimes it takes months and months and sometimes years to close any particular account. But how long does it take to actually lose a customer? Seconds, right? Sometimes you don't even get that phone call. So we want to make sure the post-sales activities are concrete. We understand what needs to be done after the sale has been made. Whatever we do in the sales process, we want to make sure that every effort is about the customer. Every effort is about the customer. It's all about them. It's always been all about them. A lot of salespeople out there today, unfortunately, think it's about them. Getting the deal, getting the commission, doing whatever I can to close this deal. Well, fine. But the fact of the matter is, until we understand that it's all about the customer, that's when we can truly help them be more successful and really truly understand what they need, because it's all about them. And you think about it, if the customer gets what they want, so do you. When the customer feels like they win based upon a recommendation or solution that you provided, if they win, you win. Let's make sure that this conversation is two-way as opposed to one-way when we're going down this path during the sales process.